So I can imagine, like y'all, you have social media, you just end up following people, following artists for years. And it's kind of thing, it's like you check in on their works, like, oh, cool, that's what they're doing. And they kind of just become a staple. Like, for me, it's like Instagram. I'll open up one, it's like, yeah, that's what they're doing. I haven't seen them in a while. This looks great. And one of those artists for me was a guy named JP Foskett. Great, phenomenal artist. And like I said, luckily I happened to like walk by his table and he hasn't changed his signature. So got to chat with him, pick up a book. I told him, like, yeah, I fell in love with your stuff with the book Dead Duck. He's like, Dead Duck? He's like, I don't even own that book anymore. I'm surprised anyone's read that. So let's take a look at a book that even the artist doesn't own anymore. This one's a fun one. Okay, y'all. So we got Dead Duck here, this is a book I bought years ago. I think I bought this at MegaCon. It's seen wear and tear. I bought this brand new, but yeah, this has been a book. It's got a lot of love. And the thing I love about this, it's his acting and humor and wit. So it starts off with a introduction from Doug Jones, the guy who played Abe Sapien, Pan's Labyrinth, a bunch of things. So we start off with this guy asking if this is the line for death. And I mean, the thing I love the most about his stuff is his character design and acting. And like this, I mean, that is such a crazy great layout, but man. And this feels like what I would call like an adult cartoon, not like rated X or like, anything like that. But this feels like something for like a 17-year-old. Maybe even like there's some violence, there's some slight like PG-13 sex, but it's just a fun like, and it's also like the little bit of humor. Like hang in there with the noose and a bit like, but even like the secretary. And I love too, this is JP. And literally, I mean, just like look at the acting here. And that's the one thing I love about, especially like pure cartoony. You get like crazy, crazy acting and like amazing shots. And yeah, it's like, do clouds look like this perfectly? No. But does it work perfectly because it makes us read our eye? Yeah. And I will say this gets a little wordy at times, which is, it's fine. It's part of the charm. But then there is something to this where it's like, having the character fall in a hole. Next page, like literally having him in the hole, but it's almost like the panel itself. And the thing I love too about, like I said, is character designs, you almost get a quick read. Like it's easy to assign each one of these characters a voice, even though you might not have their names or you might not have a lot of information about them. So each one kind of ends with so Dead Duck is a minion of Death. Death is JP. And it's basically him. The idea is he has to go to recently deceased and get them like over threshold over here. So it's like paperwork and it's a carrier job. But it's the humor that makes this. And then we got Zombie Chick, which what's interesting because I talked to Jay a bit, and he admitted like the reason he stopped doing Dead Duck was the comments he got about Zombie Chick, which I'm like, I get and I don't get, and we'll point this out later. Actually, no, this is a perfect time. He always has to draw the nipples on the chick, but it's like even here this doesn't really make sense. And I've talked about like doing an outline here, where it's like if you drew like light hitting the top of the nipples, that's fine, but you're doing black everywhere else. And I'm not saying like, oh, don't draw nipples. It's just it's weird that he's breaking his own rule just to show nipple. But then you get like fun moments like they always are kind of humorous, even like something horrendous like the Salem witch trials. And they kind of go from like, here's a punk Judge Judy, and man, what's insane about this? Okay, like great acting, great cartooning, but look at like these aren't easy angles to pull off, especially on like a character like that. And the other thing I love about great silhouette, but the other thing I love about the cartooning is it's over the top. Like the acting, it's so much fun. Like even like now, if you excuse me, I got to go set up a three-way with Howdy Doody and Mr. Moose. Get me some kinky ideas for those ping pong balls of his. Like it's the I won't lie, not everything's like aged well or perfect, but they are. Especially like this one was fun because basically what happens here. So they have to collect Abe Lincoln, but Abe, what happens? Wait, because I did read this. Oh, that's right. He gave him a wedgie instead of shooting him. So they have to set history right. So they call in the cleaner, who's what's crazy is like introduce this guy, don't do a lot with him. He cuts off Abe Lincoln's head. Kind of forget about the wedgie after the head bit. So it's like, well, how do we reset time, like reset history? And it's basically like, okay, Zombie Chick will play Wilkes Booth, and we'll just have her kill because he can't. He can feel pain. He can't die. Kill Abe Lincoln. And this is like, I don't think he needed this, but it's like a sign of a weak. This is always a sign of insecurity, and we all artists we do this. You know, it happens. But the fact that he gets killed with a machine gun. And yeah, there's moments like this where it's like he does these outlines, and then part of me is like, you know, you didn't have to. Like, I get like the one on the arm, but I'm like, you didn't have to do all these. And it's like, I think if you had more of the black, it would read better. And yeah, there's some slight nudity in this. This is the origin of Dead Duck himself. Basically, there's a soul that is too evil, so he put it in a thermostat. What's funny is this chick is talking like very like Shakespearean whimsy. The second this comes out, it's like, oh, what is this supposed to be? And even admits he's like, you spoke prettier when you were horny. And it's just a fun. I mean, even like look at this character, and he does. He's got great paneling, great acting. I mean, and yeah, Death trying to get him back in this thermostat. Let's go. Whoop. And it's like, how do you illustrate that realistically? Like, hey, I'm gonna do a panel of an evil spirit going inside of a duck. And this I love too. The duck explodes to an egg, and this almost reminds me of Doctor Manhattan from Watchmen. But yeah, it's just different adventures. So it's like you got the Golem, and it's like you got the Golem who uh free will and horniness, and they're only a couple pages, like 6 or so pages. This guy ended up being interesting. I thought he was going to be more of a foil, and he's not. This one was a little weird though, because it was so the artist is Canadian, and this was definitely like a lot of jokes. I feel like you would get the reference if you were more Canadian. Like a lot of these would hit better. So it's and I won't lie, I'm glad I got books from all different regions of the world, and sometimes they hit, sometimes sometimes the jokes make sense, and sometimes they don't. And what's crazy because he's going throughout like the history, like throughout time. But man, like I said, the character designs. This one was fun. Big Man on Campus. So this is basically a He-Man spinoff, or a He-Man, not spinoff, comedy joke. And oh my gosh, like he just nailed the characters perfectly. He talked about how he was a huge fan of this character, and it's just like as a parody, it's just perfect. Like this character's constantly drunk. Instead, I want to talk about his big, hard, throbbing sword. This dude has no pants and like just covers it perfectly. So like I said, it feels like adultish where it's like, well, not adultish like in an like it's not intellectual. You know what this is? This is what's like perfect for a 17-year-old where it's like you're not quite you're might 16, 17, you're not quite ready for a playboy, but you're well aware of sex. And like I said, he loves the nipple. And that's part of me when he's like, "Oh, I didn't like where people were going with Zombie Chick." It's like, "Are you surprised, my man?" It's like you make these jokes. I don't know. I get both sides because it is kind of weird if you're not expecting it, but at the same time, it's kind of like you got to expect. You are drawing this. There's a certain emotion you will get out of this. Also, I just want to stop here because look at that cat. Look at that fat cat. And yeah, it turns out Big Man on Campus had a huge sneeze and blew off his own head. Yeah, and it's just a fun. Any chance they give me a hickey and autographing it? This one was interesting too. Like, not the best story, but it was interesting going to a completely different layout with this. And yeah, like I said, it's like easily. And this was, I believe, through Lulu Prints. Like, not the best, but it's held up over the years. And for $12 for all this books, like, it's hard to complain. Full color, very thin paper. And that's the other thing when people are like, "Oh, bleed through." It's like I've had many a books with bleed through. Like, I wish every book got the greatest treatment. But you can't. This book will probably never get printed again. This one was a fun one. This was basically this is the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. And they go into this interesting place where he realizes is like, if I stop this, I can stop World War II, World War One, and maybe World War Two. And this dude's completely depressed, about to take a cyanide pill. Zombie chick, like, and the thing with zombie chick, she's an airhead, like, she's a zombie, so not all there. She goes off on random tangents, knocks out this pill. This guy goes after her and looks. There's Archduke Ferdinand, but man, like, this is amazing acting. Like, these three panels right here are just perfect, and once again, the great action sequence. And yeah, just even drawing her, like, just both of them at the counter. Then you have like this one where Dead Duck as a child goes to camp, and it's basically to make sure that this evil spirit hasn't like taken over him. And you got Little Adolf, Dickie, aka Nixon, Dead Duck, and Dracula. Like, oh my gosh. And yeah, Little Adolf's not even the worst one, it's Dracula. But this was such a man, this was such a bold. I to devote a page like that, like, oh. And it's also, you know what, too? Because I talked about the cartoon stuff. His backgrounds, though, like just even this, like kind of showing how dilapidated this evil camp is. And he gets this little crush, which I'm not gonna lie, this was very cute. And what's interesting is it fits with that duck with like the horn stuff. Like even like man, like great characterization. She gets changed into a muffin or into a cupcake. He eats the cupcake. But here's the best part. You turned my first crush into a cupcake that I just ate, didn't you? No, not at all. Woo! I turned your first crush into a volcano laxative shaped like a cupcake. Like, look, there's just certain things you don't do in war. And it's like him getting bullied and kind of goes on. He ends up staking Dracula, and it's a pun off a steak, but it turns out it's for garlic. So he like melts a hole into him and kills him. Such great, like, I'll say this 1,000 times. Amazing acting. It turns out the devil's really a slacker, like kind of, late 90s, mid 2000. And what's interesting was you kind of like this was a great version of the devil. And it's always interesting seeing like everyone's version of the devil. Because he seemed kind of like innocent, like, oh, I don't want to do this, blah, 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 blah. But then blackmailing the devil, hey, maybe there is some evil in you after all. But it was just like the mixture of that eye and this, it's like, it just hits perfectly. Yeah, this one was a weird one. It was a death of an old cartoon character. And this one did not age well. But you have this weird, it's him playing around. And he goes, what's, uh, they go into a cartoon, but this feels very late 90s, like early, there's a certain like period this falls into. And where was it? PB and JC. Oh, I'm thinking of something else. Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, and it's like, it turns out you can't kill like a cartoon character can't die unless they take like real products. Fred Flintstone already had the tobacco industry cover up his ads from the Winston cigarettes. So crazy, choose the next best thing. Gasp, rubbers? Not quite. 100% true, look it up. But it's him promoting heroin. The character had a overdose on heroin. And this one was crazy because it was basically like the dead, like talking about how the minions can't, like all the rules, they can't change hands, they can't do all this and that. They can never kill though. And this guy, like the serial killer, they're here to collect his victims, and he wants the power of death. And if you've read Bang, we had the similar source material. Get in the sack, same legend. His had My Little Pony unicorns. But what's great, like comedy, like very juvenile in all the best ways. But then you get to here, And it's a very an emotional scene. Like even like this little panel here. But basically, he's got a knife from a witch that affects zombies. So he's slowly torturing her. And like I said, not the best panel layout, but I know that knife. Where'd you get it? From an old dead witch who knew her business where zombies were concerned. She's deafness. Give me your power. There's no power. Let her loose, and I'll end her, or let her loose, and I'll end it here. I promise. I too promise I will never end here for her. And it's like it is such a sad moment because it's like just the pain of loss. But I like that arm. Stop it. You're scaring her. She doesn't understand what's happening. Your power. Stop it. Goodbye, Ducky. And it's like, that's kind of this character in a nutshell. Like this sweet emotional moment. He ends up frying him. And he talks to his boss. Like his boss knows all of death and kind of explains it's. And this was like the last time the main like story came up. Never came up again. Then you had these like the ancient gods of the Norse mythology. Um, like I said, not everything translated well. Mermaid story. This one, oh my gosh. Um, Clear ceilings, Ducky. No sign of a holly notes anywhere. Maybe that sexy fish lady with the big knockers and the mouth like a bear trap ate her. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Here she comes. What just happened, Ducky? Oh, she just got saved by Jirana, the horny giant squid. And he crushed Holly Notes with his loving, touching squeeze. No, 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 no. So it's kind of like I said. I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, like, my dude. This one was a fun one because this is one like there's no words, and I always appreciate like the only ones with zombies and like minions only. And she, she's not a minion, but she hangs out with Dead Duck. I swear this is a nod to the crows from like Fritz the Cat and oh my god, Ralph Bakshi movies. Which is like, I'm pretty sure I would not be surprised if Ralph Bakshi was an inspiration to him. Drinks the beer, and I love this, like just whoop. And her dance, like crazy off the top 80s, but like look at the like, and it's like I often find myself like when I draw, stuff ends up getting stiff and stiff and stiff. And yeah, what's interesting is like no two characters are the same, and love that pose. Straight to this, and this was such a tender moment too. And man, this one made me sad, especially after the whole like her about to lose her arm. Like she really loves him, and it feels like he's abandoning her. Like he is her world. He doesn't have the time of day for her, if that makes sense. So she goes back to where she belongs, and it turns out, yeah, he picked up pizza and dinner. He just wants to hang out with her. This was the last one. It was basically like these random deaths happen at this town to the point of they throw a dead festival. And I love the iconography and the humor, like the half dead guy, like with the kid, like, oh. Also, too, I want to point this out, like, just amazing shapes. Like, it's clearly Ben Franklin, that's the alien, but man, like, look, some of the best cartooning. The confidence, and I love this too, like, very Looney Tunes. Yeah, this feels like Looney Tunes with a little bit of edge to it. Like, because, like I said, they're dealing with horror and stuff, so you have various things. And handles character design well. And I don't think he's ever done anything like this adult again. I think he's kind of going more for kids stuff, which it makes sense. But man, in some ways, like I would almost love to see him tackle like a full like underground erotica kind of comic, or even like full action like blood splatter. Basically, this evil toaster's telling zombie chick all this stuff, and they realize they just came on like they came because they always come, but there's no death, like there's no paperwork. Turns out the toaster's haunted. This is a cool scene though. So Toaster shoots some toast. And like doing this, it's like it's one panel. And this is something, especially because I do action, I really need to remind myself of this more, where it's like it's three actions, but we can put it in one panel. And this figure comes out. And basically, Dead Duck and Zombie Chick forgot to pick him up because they were too invested with the meat, which they talk about earlier in here. So he's just been killing people every year, trying to get their attention. And basically, the other thing is like Zombie Chick hasn't eaten brains before, so first time. And then you end with a Chris Sanders, which it's like, man, if you're gonna have like one person do your character, Chris Sanders is not a bad choice. I need to look. We'll look at his stuff. And this is the other thing I love about Create Your Own. This is literally just a thank you, like for buying this. Even to the point where it's like he talks about Ape, he talks about his family and friends, his wife, to Doug Jones, Chris Sanders, to Jim Henson for being my hero and inspiration in every line I draw. Just cause it's like it's his book. Then you got some advertisement, and then we end here. So yeah, this is one of these books where, and yeah, I'm gonna have to bring up my own, but it's like it's one of these books where I don't see this ever being reprinted. It's not like, oh man. And there's certain books like Watchmen, Weapon X, and I get it, like they always need to be in print. But it is a shame because there's certain books that have a certain charm that are fun, and it's like, will we ever see them again? Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to say. And this is one that definitely feels like you either got it or you didn't. So, but yeah, Jay, I need to look up more of his stuff. I've been following him for years, and I need to read more of his stuff because like this is this was like almost 2 decades ago I bought this, and he's only gotten better. So I highly recommend him. Yeah, at some point I need to do a Heroes Con like haul. Definitely look at this. But yeah, go take some chances on a book. You don't know what's here today won't be here tomorrow. So anyway, have a good one, y'all.